A happy Saturday to everybody. This is Your Questions, Your Money here on the Fox Business Network. I'm Dagan McDowell along with Tracy Burns. And this hour, we're going to focus on businesses. Starting one, building one. The phone number is 877-249-9626. And also an email address is feedback@foxbusiness.com. So the next 2 hours are about bringing this economy back to life, this country back to life, one business at a time, one dream at a time. And I'm talking about the American dream, building a business, pursuing a passion, providing for your family, your community, living and working in freedom. For centuries, people have risked their lives to come to this country, come here to make it here. And that's why we're here, to help make that happen. We're not here to fuss and moan and yell about what the government's doing right or wrong, what it is doing, what it isn't doing. The next 2 hours are about inspiration, not exasperation. Being a passionate entrepreneur, not a passive observer. We're pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, not being down in the dumps about everything that's gone wrong. What is right in this country? That's what we're here to talk about. 2 hours of discussion about being your own boss, taking charge, building a business, and a better country.
I feel like I should raise the flag.
Well, you know what? I think we need to do more.
I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, well, this week, President Obama announced a plan to help small businesses make it through this recession. The administration is making it easier for them to get loans from the Small Business Administration by eliminating fees on its most popular loans. Now, the government will also use $15 billion to buy already issued small business loans so that lenders will be able to willing to create new ones.
And that's just one of the things we're here to talk about, what the government's doing that can help you if you own a business or starting one. And our next guest met the president earlier this week when he announced that new program to help businesses. Joining us now for this hour to help answer some of your questions is Marco Lentini, founder and president of Avanti Food. Marco, it's great of you to be here. We're so excited. You can give people advice. There was much made, and you introduced the president, I believe. There was much made about how the ramped up business loan program won't help some small businesses, but how will it help? How will it help you?
Thank you. It provides real and direct measurable assistance to small businesses. In my case, his plan of waiving the fees on SBA loans is going to create a savings of about $26,250. That's real money that remains with the small business. That's money that I can take and invest in training our employees. It's money I can take and help fund working capital, as well as future expansion. And when you think about it, by giving that money to the small business and allowing me to grow my business, in turn, we'll employ more people who make car payments, buy houses, and shop at our malls.
Margaret, you have to tell us, though, what your business is. I don't want to take words out of your mouth. I know what you do, but tell the folks at home.
Sure. Followed a passion and dream that I had since I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, being in the kitchen with my mom and always making homemade spaghetti, homemade ravioli. Eventually decided to really do what I was passionate about and start an all-natural, wholesome foods company here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And what we did is 6 years ago is launched our first Gia Pronto Cafe, which is really a hybrid between fast food and sit-down restaurant. So I often refer to it as the fast casual segment, where we offer customers high-quality, fresh, natural foods in a fast casual setting.
Marco, my family came over from Sicily as well, started its own business, had this whole entrepreneurial spark, still does actually, much like you and your family. What do you think is missing these days? A lot of people just don't have that spark. Is it because of the hard ride over? You know, a couple people died on the boat, which they did. What is it that's missing these days from, you know, and I know John Rutledge is going to say something about a blue flame under people's butts, but what do you think it is that people are missing these days?
I do think that's part of it. I was, fortunate that came from a family that really instilled in us the ethic of hard work, the dedication to education, and really in looking to improve the lives of their children. And we were very fortunate that, both my parents never went to college. My father was a carpenter all his life in the city of Philadelphia, but prided himself on sending his kids to school and eventually they were able to send all 3 of their kids to an Ivy League school and really help achieve part of their American dream.
And that also means, does it not? It means people sacrifice for their kids so they can go on to build bigger and better things. With your dad,
Exactly.
I mean, literally it was building, but...
Yes, that's exactly true. And for them, it was instilling that work ethic into their children and providing a better opportunity, which is something that our country does, and where it really is still possible to achieve the American dream that a lot of hardworking Americans all across the country dream of.
Indeed, they do. And making dreams come true, that's what we're here to talk about for the next hour, the next 2 hours. Marco's going to be with us for this hour. We've got some incredible people lined up as well to really weigh in on what is happening. Right now, it's 6 minutes past the hour, and we want to welcome our listeners on Sirius and XM. I'm Dagan McDowell along with Tracy Burns. This is Your Questions, Your Money, here on the Fox Business Network.
So call us, 877-249-9626. Or you can always send us an email at foxbusiness.com. Just don't do it while you're driving. All right, let's introduce the rest of our panel. Dani Babb with the Babb Group is here, thank goodness, to answer all things loans questions. John Rutledge with Rutledge Capital, and Jonas Max Ferris, co-founder of MaxFunds.com. Hi, John.
Who's also started some businesses over the years.
One or two, and the Russian fund, right?
Yes. Am I on camera right now?
Yes, you are. Why? What were you doing?
Because I was seeing other people, and I think
Do you want to make faces?
Should have an opportunity to see me.
To make faces. And still with us, Marco Lentini, founder and president of Avanti Food. All right, so we'll take an email from Tim. Tim writes, as the owner of a small business that is directly affected by the current economic conditions, I have a lot of debt tied into credit lines and credit cards. What options do I have as an owner of a small business that has much of my personal assets tied into these businesses? Seems like a lot of banks are not wanting to help, and the SBA probably will be an option, but probably not the best for businesses that aren't in as much debt as mine. So, Dani, is this a case of, well, I'm sort of in trouble, but not too much in trouble, and therefore I don't get help?
Well, that's what it sounds like, but the SBA is not about waiting until you have trouble. You can actually use the SBA to expand a business that's not in trouble at all. So what I would recommend, Tim, that you do is talk with a big bank, because right now, and last week I said community banks. The reason that's shifted is because the new package that came out this past week incentivizes banks with a $1,500 sort of bonus, if you will, that will encourage them to give you money specifically, and then you can use that loan to pay off those debts that the credit card debt that you've racked up, which is obviously going to affect your credit score. That's going to help you down the line get additional funding, regardless of what method you try and use.
And cut the cost of the debt about in half at the same time, because you're racking up big numbers with the credit card.
Yeah, you're looking about prime +2 on anything SBA related, which is a fantastic rate.
Marco, and you started and funded your business, did you not, with loans, an SBA loan from Susquehanna Bank, and are you now borrowing more money to expand it?
Yes, we are, and it was a great program, because when we started, really all we had was an idea and a business plan, and Susquehanna Bank was our lender that funded our first location then, and it still continues to be our lender. So as we grow, we're still in the SBA loan process, because there is also limited collateral that is put up. While the business generates a healthy cash flow, the collateral is still probably limited for more traditional loans. So that's a big way that we're able to benefit through SBA lending, and they're actually now funding our next location, which is at the Center for Advanced Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital, and we'll continue to fund 2 other locations that we have projected to open up in the next 12 months.
That'll take you to how many locations, 6 or 7?
That would take us to a total of 6 locations.
Terrific. Jonas, I have a question. How do you weigh how much debt you can take on in this environment or ever when you're running a small business?
How much they'll give you is one way of, and that's going down now, unfortunately. To this specific emailer's question, SBA loans, it's not venture capital, it's not equity investing. The primary thing they're looking for is cash flow in your business. If you've got no ability to pay back debt, you're not going to get an SBA loan, even with the government stepping in. They're not going to start up finance a company. Now, he says he has personal assets in the business. They like that. In fact, the more skin in the game you have, the more likely you are to get other loans, possibly refinance. But if you're in a credit card hole already, as a startup, it might be time to start negotiating with those creditors to lower the amount you owe or the principal, which can be very difficult, possibly even default. Otherwise, I would say it's time to move into equity financing, take on a partner who will pay off your debt for a stake in the business, because you're going to have a hard time in this environment raising more debt to pay off already high-interest unsecured creditors.
All right, let's take a caller. Sharon from Arkansas on the phone. Hey, Sharon.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
What's your question?
My question is, my family and I have sit down and we have a couple ideas to start a small business. And I have heard that there are government grants coming or maybe already out there. I've been all over the internet looking at the Small Business Administration locations, and I cannot locate those. Do you have some information on that? Is that true? If it's not true, then about the small business startup low-interest loan, maybe that would be a help.
Well, I want to know, Sharon, what kind of business you're thinking about starting before we get to Dani.
We're in the natural state in the Ozarks up by Bull Shoals Lake, and we own an 81-acre farm, and I have a couple children that have been laid off. I'm 60. And we would like to get into the beekeeping and also worm, the red worm and minnow. We have a lake on our farm that we have the ideal location for all that with the apple orchards and so forth. But we'd like to get it started up, and maybe we could hire, we thought, about 5 people to start out with.
Sharon, thanks for sharing that, because that's one of the things, just the details of what people want to do with their lives and their existing assets. That gets us fired up. So thank you for that. But Dani, fill her in.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Okay, you have a couple of options. First of all, check out the Department of Agriculture, because there's $11.4 million of new grants for things exactly like what you were talking about. So definitely there's something there for you. The one that I like is clubenetwork.com. Check them out. And then check out grants.gov. Here's the way you get grants. It's not by the federal government level. It's at the state level. So each state's going to have their own funding, their own grants. That's where you check it out. The other thing, too, is at grants.gov, there's links on there that will link you to, if you're a woman-owned business, minority-owned business, specifics to your particular demographic that can really help you out. And that's an awesome idea.
Isn't one of also the 504 loan program, is that for land and buildings through the government? And that was at least part of what President Obama announced. They're planning to buy some securities of those types of loans.
Yes, as long as you have a brick and mortar store and it's long-term financing. So we're looking between 10 and 30 years on a 504 loan. The interesting thing, you raised that point, because in the SBA, typically we'd have a $500,000 max. That's going to be raised to a little over $1 million now. That's a huge benefit for a lot of people. So check out also in your area, since you're in a rural, it sounds like you're in a rural community, check out the Community Express option, because there's no collateral required to get that loan.
Anybody else want to jump in?
The SBA does not do grants. In fact, as the other guest was saying, state governments actually do more with small business in some states than actually the federal government does. Other than SBA lending and some tax stuff, you're going to actually get more with like grants and co-investor money. A lot of states actually will invest along with venture capital through funds. There's incentives to move to states, et cetera. So that you should actually look there as much as federal. And again, but SBA does do agricultural lending related stuff. So. And
check out your ag department at your local university, because they might be more willing to help than you think.
Thanks,
good
everybody.
Stuff.
And Marco, we haven't forgotten about you, but we farming.
Sure.
Actually, do you want to jump in here? A couple of final words?
Sure. As far as borrowing from the SBA, really what the government guarantee allows banks to do is lend to businesses that wouldn't have sufficient collateral to access the traditional lending market. You still need the cash flow to repay and pay down that debt, and that's an extremely important part of your business that you need to think about. However, you can access SBA loans without having significant collateral, which is a great benefit.
Marco, thanks for that. Call or email us.
Sure.
We're here to answer your questions about your money and your business, your budding business.
Call us 877-249-9626 or email us at feedback@foxbusiness.com. Lots more to come on the only business network that's awake on Saturday mornings and in true HD. Welcome back to Fox Business Network, Awake on a Saturday morning. I'm Tracy Burns along with Dagan McDowell.
Awake and excited. We've got some experts here to answer your questions about business, starting one, running one, being inspired. Call us at 877-249-9626 or send us an email at feedback@foxbusiness.com. On the phone from Georgia is Felton. Felton, go ahead, ask your question.
Hey, good day, ladies. We love you down here in Georgia.
Thank you, sir.
Well, my wife and I lost our jobs, were laid off last year, and before that, we were able to pull about $250,000 out of our home in a line of credit. With that, we bought a low-income housing and a commercial building, and they're both in LLCs. I didn't know whether now is a good time to try to refinance that all into a home jumbo loan, as is that $250,000 is actually in 3.5% interest only right now. Or do we pursue possibly a conventional commercial loan for that $250,000?
Danny's the residence and real estate expert.
What was the rate you said you had right now?
Currently, interest only at 3.5%.
Okay, so you want to refinance it because your interest only is about to come up and it's going to reset?
No, it's on a 20-year term where I could lock it in on a principal about 4 times in 20 years. But we're probably going to 1031 exchange this property in a couple of years. I know, do I keep it interest only, or do I try to start paying some principal on it?
No, if you're going to do 1031 exchange anyway, I would just keep it interest only. I mean, you know the rule about having to sell it, identify your new property within 6 months.
Right.
With regard to the LLC, if you're going to take a new loan on this thing, there's most likely the bank is not going to lend the money to your LLC because it's a mortgage loan at that point. You're going to have to then involve your own personal credit. I think you have it structured fantastic. I'd leave it as is, hang out with that interest only, and deal with the 1031 when the time comes.
Is there a way to get the balance down in the environment with the modifications right now?
That would depend on what's your loan-to-value ratio right now?
LTV is probably 70.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, no, not really. You're in fantastic shape, especially at that interest rate.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Marco, should he stay as an LLC or should he consider incorporating himself?
Well, this is to Marco?
Yes, Marco, I'm sorry.
It's your...
It's Jersey talking to Philly.
as-
There's like a language barrier. I'm kidding. Go ahead, Marco.
I didn't
as
say
far as
talking to
incorporating-
Philly.
As far as incorporating, that's something that we did early on with the Giapronto cafes. We incorporated as a C corporation. And a big part, I think, the thought that needs to go into that is thinking about where a company is at now, what type of protection do they want through the corporate structure, and where do they want to be. So part of it is if you're thinking of bringing in eventually equity investors, perhaps a C corporation is certainly better structured for that, which will allow different tiers of equity versus an LLC or another structure. So a lot of the thought that should go into what corporate structure you're going to establish really should take into account, one is tax issues, and then the second part is what is your growth plan and how will that sort of flow in with your corporate structure.
Danny, you wanted to hop in quickly.
Yeah, just real quick, with regard to real estate, I always recommend that real estate is structured in an LLC and not a corporation. And there's a couple reasons why. The only thing you're protecting is, one, your own credit in case that property value drops, and with that LTV, I wouldn't be worried. And two, the other thing is that the LLC, you want to be concerned about tenants burning down the place, and that is more than enough protection with an umbrella policy.
All right,
For
good
10 of those
answers.
stories, 9 of them, the right answer is LLC, 1's a C Corp.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Send in your questions. Fox Business in HD.
This is the Fox Business Network, and we're here for you to answer your questions about your money. Again, call us.
Call us, 877-249-9626, or email us feedback@foxbusiness.com. Let's get right to your questions. We have Alice from Oregon on the phone. Hey, Alice.
Hi, good morning, and thanks so much for doing this show. I've been watching it for about a month, and I'm so inspired. I've formed an LLC. It's called the Women's Investment Group. I am a real estate investor by trade. I've been making a living off of that for the last 6 or 7 years, and I'm ready to to up the ante and take it out into the world, and you guys have been a big help. But I'm a little bit stuck, and I'm also needing some help with a couple of big choices here. I've gone ahead and gotten my Oregon license. I just just passed that test last week. In making the rounds with all the brokers, they all want me to work for them, and I don't want that. I want to find a part-time broker who will work under my company and help me grow this discount real estate sales and service business, which also includes foreclosures, property management, and I've arranged to outsource and landscape and cleaning people. And then we have an educational component for small business development and also real estate investment courses. So we've got a nice mix here, but I'm having trouble getting somebody to take me on as a licensee. I need some help with that, or maybe you can advise me to just do my 3-year time, which is what they want licensees to do normally, to work under a broker. I just see a lot of money. Our market's really ripe to have a discount real estate service company come in, and it would really help a lot of people. I'm also trying to decide if I want to redo my LLC to a sub-S and maybe incorporate in Nevada and maybe even change my residence. And then my third question has to do with financing. I'm self-financed. I've got cash, but I've also got a lot of inventory in real estate, real property. So I'm wondering, should I just go ahead and bite the bullet and take a real loss on those properties, or should I just wait it out and kind of milk my business slowly and grow it and then cash those out later when the market's better? So those are my 3 questions.
All right. Well, first, congratulations. This sounds excellent. And I think we have to first turn it to Dani on all this.
Fantastic.
It sounds like
Alex.
a little bit like, well, your businesses, doesn't it?
A little, Alice. You and I have a lot in common there. I sort of do something similar, although you're taking it to another level. My hat's off to you. You rock. First of all, I hear you about the brokerage thing. That's a problem a lot of us face. Here's what I did. I found someone who just wanted to make some extra cash and only wanted to take 10% off the top. And I became his licensee. So if you can't find someone like that, you might want to write out the 3 years. But here's something else you should look at. They count, and I'm sure you already know this, but they count other things that you do in real estate as experience. So if you've been studying, you've been teaching classes, that sort of thing, you can get some of the years or months checked off. That's something to look at, but I would actually advertise on Craigslist that you're looking to have a broker on your team and explain what the terms are right up front. That's what I did, found somebody that was able to fulfill that obligation. So that's an option. With regard to the property management aspect of your business, I'm sure you've run the numbers here, but that could be exceedingly profitable. You mentioned the maintenance aspect. The maintenance, a lot of people don't realize property managers often own their own maintenance companies, and when the owner gets the bill at the end of the month for the landscaping, it looks like it's a separate company, but it's actually a subsidiary of the main corporation. That's a great way to mark up services and make some substantial cash. I'll let everybody else answer the questions about the C Corp, S Corp, and so on. One thing you have going for you here is that you are way ahead of the market with regard to unbundling services. About 3 years ago, I wrote a book called Commissions at Risk, and it was all about the only way for real estate people to survive in the coming market is to stop this flat rate 6% nonsense, unbundle services, either become a low-cost provider or charge for specific things. That is the model for the future, in my opinion. You have something killer there.
And being open and clear about what your fees are and being willing to negotiate as a real estate broker, that will go a long, long way. John, what about her financing options?
Well, first thing is you're probably in the #1 out of 50 states in terms of being in a good place right now. So that's a great thing, Alice. Second of all, I'm a Nevada resident for the same reason you're thinking about it. I don't really enjoy paying taxes. The view's not so great, but taxes are important now. Third thing is, this is a terrible time to be a seller if you don't have to, and the market is not the hot market, so I'd be inclined to not dump things at a fire sale, hang on, but also to start a little more slowly. And finally, the LLC sub-S, find a lawyer who'll do something for 1 hour and won't pay you a retainer, and they'll give you the best answer, but it's going to be a tax answer, not a liability answer for you.
Yeah, I think John's right.
Jonas, do you want to weigh in here?
So many questions. All right, first of all, Oregon's not a bad
You don't have to
state
answer
for
all of them, but
LLC. Are you in Portland? Is the caller still on? Portland kind of stinks. They have some weird business taxes there and some other things. But in general, Oregon's not a terrible state to run an LLC. Unless you're going to become a resident of Nevada, I don't see how you're going to avoid any taxes anyway.
That's the idea.
Well,
Right.
If you're not going to live there, you're going to run into more problems, I think, in some ways with the IRS. Getting back to let's talk about the business idea. Everyone undercutting the commissions, that's a great business model. It's kind of been tried already in real estate with a bunch of high-profile, well-backed by venture capitalist startups. Forget the names exactly. Maybe Zip Realty is one. There was a couple others on the West Coast. You know, it's a monopoly, that business. It's hard to undercut commissions. You get left out of the MLS listings. There's a lot of problems there. You can't do it in brokerage either. There's fixed commissions in IPOs and fund commissions. It's very hard as a business. I try to do it in some areas to undercut existing fee structures that are there. How did you make the money before? It wasn't in foreclosures and management?
She's not on the phone. Danny's shaking her head at you.
I like the foreclosure part of it. Managing foreclosure properties, I think, is the interesting part of it. The whole undercutting the fee, I just think that doesn't work.
But the reason this is interesting to do is because there's a monopoly that's got a huge margin there. And that's why if you can win.
IPO commissions, where it's always been the same. Loads on funds. No one's been able to undercut that. It just doesn't go
That
away.
attitude wouldn't have gotten Alice to start a business in the first place.
Hang on a minute.
I'm telling you,
It is a little bit different here. Here's the thing. If you maintain your membership in the National Association of Realtors, right, the big lobby group that we all have to pay our dues to, if you maintain that, you're not going to lose your MLS access. I did it. I slammed them on Neil Cavuto's show. I still have my MLS card, so it's all good. Don't worry about that. There are companies that have tried the low-cost thing. Trulio is one of them out on the West Coast. I'm talking about unbundling services, not charging a flat low percentage rate, but charging $500 to list it, $1,000 for open houses. Unbundle it and try and get more creative. Totally different from how the low-cost providers are doing it.
Don't you think, Jonas Max Ferris, that the public is ripe for something different?
They're not. That's the thing.
I don't buy that on. I do not buy that for a penny.
Nobody wants to pay it, but you got an entrenched monopoly without a government going in there and breaking it up.
The thing about Alice's idea that works, this is a market that's been frozen up by the capital markets, which means people can't buy big, expensive stuff, but they can buy little services. The way you survive a shutdown of the economy is you sell something to somebody for $5 or $8, a service they didn't have, to survive to the other side, then you make money.
Marco, were you trying to say something?
Yeah, sure. I need to weigh in and give Alice the optimism. We've had monopolies throughout history, and they often do come down. I think she has a great opportunity to learn from some of the first movers that did fail in that, and perhaps structure the value proposition differently to the customer. So I do think it's a very interesting idea and commend her.
Exactly.
Marco, thank you for that. And I should say, so we all outweigh Jonas. Jonas is wrong. I can say that because, full disclosure, Jonas is my husband.
And Jonas has spent millions of dollars trying to do what we just said to existing structure.
Alice is going to do it. Alice is going to win.
Yes, she is, absolutely.
And I'm coming back with a referee shirt on because I'm sitting between the married couple here. This is dangerous territory. More
I don't
answers.
want to be a poo-poo, but businesses fail for
Stop
things like this.
talking.
And the thing about the managing foreclosure properties is a nice business idea.
You're
Get away
awesome.
from
More answers to your small business questions ahead. So email us, call us, 877-249-9626. Email is feedback@foxbusiness.com. Can you imagine a breakfast conversation? Holy. And welcome back. This is Your Questions, Your Money on the Fox Business Network. I'm Tracy Burns.
And I'm Daga McDowell. Let's get back to answering your questions with our panel. Here for the hour, actually, the next 2 hours. Dani Babb with the Babb Group. You know her and love her. John Rutledge with Rutledge Capital. He's always fired up. Jonas Max Ferris. He's a Fox contributor and co-founder of MaxFunds.com. And our special guest this hour, Marco Lentini, founder and president of Avanti Food, who is joining us from Philadelphia. Let's get to an email. Raymond writes, I'm considering opening a used tire or used car business. What can I expect when starting a business? John, is that a good idea in this environment?
First thing you need to go is to a website called Manheim.com, M-A-N-H-E-I-M. They'll give you transaction prices on 5 million real used car sales a year and the monthly prices, because in that business, it's really a resale trading market, and the price movements can kill you. So you need some information. You need to go there. The used car business, right now, if I were doing that, I'm doing it on concession. I'm leaving the ownership in the hands of the current owner until I get paid, because I don't want to front the cash for doing that. I want to get the land from somebody else for free who's trying to find a renter for it. You can cut deals right now to do that, but don't lay out your cash in the front to do it.
Danny?
That's good. I wouldn't add anything to that.
Jonas?
Yeah, I like businesses in this environment that are catering to people that are stepping down from whatever area that they were in. So if you're thinking about it, there's already a lot of used car places out there, so you got to just do a little more innovative. You know, look to like deliver services that you ordinarily would expect buying a new car, but now that you are a used car buyer, maybe longer warranties than usual. And I wouldn't back off the financing thing because you can charge very high rates on that, and yet people are going to need financing to buy used cars as well. So I like the broad scope of getting into lower area services, but again, think about how you can differentiate from existing plentiful and large scale like CarMax type operations.
Jonas is absolutely right. We got an email from a fellow in the last day who started one of those services. It was actually a mobile car washing service. He now has got thousands of outlets and $1 billion business. And he started with one of those and one idea and one car wash in one town. So it's a service that you can take, in this case, take it to the person rather than...
Does he do more than just car washing at this point? Does he deliver other things?
He basically has like the Kentucky Fried Chicken of mobile car washes in America, and he's been vastly successful with it.
But Marco, I think part of his question was, how does he even start going about this? What's the first thing he should do, or you know, to get this business off the ground?
Sure. Your first thing is to really contact either your city or your county, because often there are a lot of hurdles that a small business needs to go through, whether it's the process of business privilege licenses that might apply to what city you're in, or perhaps with a used tire business, any environmental issues or concerns. So it's really to get up to speed on all that, which at times is daunting. I certainly agree with the cash point that was brought up earlier. I think if you look at the next 8 to 12 months, I think there'll certainly be incredible opportunities, but you do need to be able to have the cash to take advantage of those opportunities.
Marco, you went to Wharton to get your master's, your MBA. In hindsight, was that necessary? Are you glad you did it still?
I am. It was a great learning experience. And one of the ways that I look at it is it really provided me with the grounding, the training, the methodologies that you need to be able to build and grow a business. It really does provide you with a general management education, so you have the ability to understand financial models, do financial projections, profit and loss statements. At the same...
Marco, I'm with you. I got my
go ahead.
MBA too. I think a lot of people are down on the degree. You don't need it, but if nothing else, it helps you think.
Did you guys? Jonas did.
It helps you think, and it's a great insurance policy, because at the end of the day, if your business doesn't work, you still have an MBA, a graduate education, and perhaps you could always go back to work for an insurance company or bank if they're all still around.
Or an accounting firm, like my alma mater.
Exactly.
In my case, it was sort of a waste of time. Like if you want to go consult
Didn't we talk
or
to you
work
about
on...
being encouraging?
I'm telling you, it's a waste of time.
That's good business. If you think it's a waste of time,
I didn't join a startup to go get an MBA that went on to just massive success, which I was, on the ground floor. And worse, I was then trying to raise money when I graduated from venture capitalists who really don't care about your MBA.
Agreed.
They would have been really more psyched if you were with a startup in the mid-'90s than wasting time as an MBA. Now, if you want to be a consultant or raise a lot of money for certain types of businesses or work on, well, an MBA is it's not a total waste of time, but it's more of a career thing than a startup path, even though there's entrepreneurship schools and all that, like Babson and stuff.
Learn something every day. If it's an MBA, great. If it's not, go learn something else. Get some other degree and work at the same time. But the problem is, getting people in and out of Wharton isn't going to save America. Wharton's chairs are already full. It's educating the rest of the people that matters. And it's the incremental education of low-cost stuff that's online that's going to really spread the knowledge out there. And so great to go to Wharton, great to go to Princeton. If you can, do it. If you can't, find a way to learn. If it's on the internet, if it's at midnight, just do that.
Amen.
If you want to look for specific courses, how to do certain things because you need help with just the finance component, check out the School of Entrepreneurship at Andrew Jackson University. They have fantastic specific courses you can take to learn about specific things. My first business was long before I was like 18 years old. I didn't yet have my MBA or my doctorate.
And you know what? You could actually do your MBA online now. My girlfriend is an online graduate school professor.
You can do what I did. I learned on the job by
And there's
staying
that.
up all night long
And
reading,
there's that.
reading and
Well,
talking.
as John said, beauty of the web.
And talking to people on the phone.
Sleep is
Again,
for
find the
tourists.
smartest
Right.
people on the planet and call them, and they will talk to you.
Right.
I don't care what you're doing.
And entrepreneurs especially, they love to tell their stories.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we still have plenty of time for your calls and your emails. So call us, 877-249-9626. Email us at feedback@foxbusiness.com.
We want to keep talking about starting your own business, running it, growing it. Keep those questions coming. We're not going anywhere. We'll be right back here on Fox Business. This is the Fox Business Network, where we're open for business even on a Saturday. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with Tracy Burns.
And we're taking your questions about businesses, your businesses, small businesses, starting a business. So call us, 877-249-9626. Or you can always email us at feedback@foxbusiness.com. All right, so we have Zachary from Ohio on the phone. Hi, Zachary.
Hi.
What's your question?
My question is, I have a father who has a business, a small business, who's been in the small business for about 15 years, and I wanted to know how will the economy affect my father's business.
Can you tell us more about it, Zachary?
He has a construction business who operates it here in Ohio during the winter season.
Mm-hmm. What does he build? Buildings, homes?
He builds some homes. He does go in and does homes, remodeling homes or remodeling bathrooms. And I just wanted to know how the economy will affect his small business.
Well, John, the remodeling part actually sounds good to me because people are staying in their homes longer. They want to fix up the places they have. Probably they're remodeling.
Sure. Well, first thing, Zachary, is to understand your father is in the eye of this hurricane.
Right.
Ohio, Detroit, depending on the city, is a very tough place right now in the construction business. So traditional ways of making money in construction aren't going to work for a while. But as Tracy said, there are people with problems with an unfinished project, with a project that somebody's bailed out on the maintenance, where you can come in and provide the maintenance service. You need enough cash flow to keep yourself alive until this thing comes back to life again. Make no mistake, it will come back. The world doesn't end, but you have to be there when it does.
And Zachary, one thing too is that he locks home equity lines of credit that people used to do these remodels. There's no such thing as anymore. So the well is dried up for the people who may be buying your father's services. So one thing he might want to look at are very low-cost services, almost handyman type stuff, just to ride out the market. Very low cost. Someone can pay out of their paycheck.
And where to go to get those is go to all the people your dad did business with already to build houses. They already have his stuff. They believe in him. Knock on their door. Anything you need that I can do for you, that's where he can survive.
And have him post free advice on forums in the community so that people know about his business.
Yeah, I could use a handyman.
You want to switch from remodeling to maintenance. What's doing well right now is like maintaining used car business is doing very well. People don't want to get a new car. You know, remodeling, when you're like, I'm junking that avocado refrigerator for a stainless steel refrigerator and cherry cabinets, that business is long gone right now. However, I need to get that refrigerator working model that business exists. Now, there's still a lot of people in this business who aren't all going to be able to have work, but get away from I'm fixing homes because you think it's going to make value for you to I'm going to keep your home feasibly going when you don't need to replace stuff.
Marco, one real quick thing. Again, it is about planning for the future and weighing kind of the reality of where we are in the economy. Have you made any changes or put some measures in place to prepare for, an extended weakness in the economy at all?
We have, and I think this applies to Zachary as well. And a big part is also looking internally at your business. How can you streamline it? How can you cut costs? Where can you become more efficient internally in your own business? And so one part is, yes, increasing your sales, going out, getting new customers. But there's another part of that equation, which often economic downturns force businesses to do. And ultimately, the very successful ones are the ones that are very good at it, which is looking internally as well for savings. Again, streamlining the business, cut costs, change your business model. And ultimately, then, when you do have that economic upturn, by having a much more efficient business, you're also able to take better advantage of that economic upturn. And we've done that with our Gia Pronto restaurants. There are some things that we can't control, such as the rising cost of free-range chicken or the rising cost of milk or eggs. To give you an example, my cost of trash bags have probably tripled in the last 36 months. Well, start to look at simple things as stop throwing away trash bags that are just half filled, which they're really half empty. These are very little detailed aspects that if you start to talk about that with your managers and really use your people, which are one of your most valuable resources, to help you restructure and make your business more efficient, not only do you survive an economic downturn, but you're also well positioned.
Those are great points, Marco. Great points. Actually, I should tell my kids that at home. All right, Michael from Tennessee is on the phone. Michael, what's your question?
Yes, we are producing Black Angus beef and are selling it quicker than we can produce it. We've got the opportunity now to grow, and we've been asked to export this beef out of Tennessee by the Department of Commerce, and we're looking at putting it in our own harvesting plant. But I'm scared to death of these taxes. Do we need to put in the effort to create these jobs and build this plant, or do we just kind of hold our own for a little while and see how this thing unfolds?
You're just worried about your taxes going up, period.
They're going to eat us alive.
They are, but God, don't let that kill your entrepreneurial spark, right, John?
Absolutely. Michael, first of all, you're in Tennessee, which is great because you got a big goose egg on your tax rate to deal with locally, so maybe you can survive a little longer. Michael, where is the export orders coming from? Where's the customer for this?
Europe.
In Europe, right, absolutely. But don't forget Asia. There's opportunity. Asia's growing, the only place in the world that's growing right now. And there's a population at the top end that's learning how to go from grains to beef. They like the high-priced stuff. There may be a little opportunity there. There is money in the ag department that'll help you right now. The problem is I don't want to put that money in brick and mortar because brick and mortar will hang you later. So you want to find a way to get in this business without the big front-end capital investment.
Are you talking about tariff taxes for import-export, some sort of trade war, or your income taxes going up?
Income tax.
Well, I can't think of a better way to cut your income taxes and grow your business, because in the few years that you're spending the money to grow the business, you're going to send your income to the garbage, probably, in many cases.
Yeah, good point.
And you're going to create a lot of tax, you're going to create a lot of deductions and depreciation. And, we're not going to have high taxes forever, hopefully, if we get things. So maybe you could do a growth spree during the tax increase boom of maybe 4 to 8 years, and then defer the income for later from the growth, hopefully.
Also, Jonas's point is a good one, though, because there's going to be a ton of stuff you can write off in the process of that growth.
Another $250,000 that last year you couldn't, so that's something to consider. And then also the larger depreciation deduction for 2009 that you'd write off in 2010, so it might be the best opportunity to do it.
Marco, get in here, because, again, you stood alongside President Obama at the beginning of the week, and a lot of people look to that administration and say, you're going to raise my taxes. And I want to know how you put those two things together.
What I look at is his economic stimulus for small businesses, which, like we talked about, whether it's eliminating small business fees, which could also be looked at, as a reduction in taxes, in essence. I mean, it's really leaving me, a small business owner, with more money than I would have had last year. I do think, as far as making capital investments now, I think the next 8 to 12 months will offer incredible opportunities to be able to whether it's acquire real estate or acquire a manufacturing plant at a significant discount. So I even in my own business, we're looking to expand one of our central commissaries, and we're really waiting to look and see over the next 8 to 12 months when the ideal time will be to do that.
Hey, Marco, is there a way that a guy like Michael can get his Black Angus beef, which is really delicious, on the tables in your restaurants? We've had a lot of wins in the last few weeks of people calling in, starting businesses. Someone else calls us and said, I want to do business with that guy. We've had 3 of those in the last few weeks. How, from your side of the table, where you're the buyer, how do you find somebody like Michael where you can actually spike that business of his? We want to sell your stuff, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good point. And when you look at you know, we've talked a little bit about distribution channels, whether it's with the real estate brokerage market, but it's part of looking for these efficiencies is thinking about how you can perhaps buy direct and share a cost savings, you know, with the producer and yourself. That's something that internally we look to do a lot, particularly for items that we move a lot of product on. We absolutely bypass the middleman and do buy direct, which in turn works out for both of us.
Right. Marco, you make me smile. Just the discussions make me smile because, again, it's about acting. It's taking action because everybody can do something. And this is how to fix problems. It's about solutions. It's about growth. And that's what we're covering here. Your business questions, more coming up.
Everyone, we're approaching the top of the hour here on Fox Business Network. I'm Tracy Burns along with Diego McDowell.
We're smiling and answering your questions. Call us at 877-249-9626 or email us at feedback@foxbusiness.com. We want to rifle through some of these calls. Randy from Texas is on the phone. Randy, go ahead.
Randy from Dallas. How you doing?
Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm a commercial real estate guy, but I recently invested in an oil and gas wildcat here in Texas, and we had a very big find, and we are going to have to drill 5 or 6 more development wells. I've tried to put the money aside to take care of that, but if I don't, my question is, are there banks or lending institutions you can go to help you with this, where I don't have to give away my equity?
Randy, how much money do you need?
How much money do I need?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to answer that. I'm a single boy.
How much do you need to borrow?
To borrow.
Well, I don't know yet, but you know, each of these wells costs $30,000 to $50,000.
Oh, okay, okay. So we're talking something doable with a bank. Yeah, so if you've got cash flow right now, the collateral that was required for the type of loan you're talking about was 50%. That's now been reduced to between 10 and 20%. So if you've got some sort of asset that's worth at least 10 to 20% of what you're trying to borrow, you can go to, I would check out HSBC, I would check out Chase, I would check out Bank of America, and start with those guys.
Wildcatting loans? I mean, isn't that speculative? What is it? Do you find the oil? These are still exploratory oil wells. I don't understand.
No, the oil it's been found. So I guess my question is how many months of production do we have to show before I can borrow some money and not give away my equity?
You're just going to have.
You own the land. You have drilling rights or something to this area.
Yes, I have a working interest. That's correct.
It's not a business I'm very familiar with, but don't those companies, don't they, if they know you have the oil, don't they do it on some sort of royalty basis where they'll take over all the production for it? I mean, all these countries in third world, they don't even do any of the drilling. The oil companies do it because they already have the oil. Is it that kind of a thing where you could get one of the many oil exploration companies and drillers to contract to do it on a commission, essentially, on a royalty basis, or do you have to actually pay for it?
No, this is an independent oil drilling deal where I have a working interest here in Texas on an independent well that is a very big find.
Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful time to find the stuff. It's a very tough time, Randy, to find someone who will put up the cash to do this. Last week, the rates charged on equipment in the business dropped substantially. The count numbers are dropping. It's because people in the short term have been spooked by the drop in the oil prices over the last 6 months or so. That'll all come back. And so if you can get that 30 to 50,000, I'm going to go at that very slowly. And as you know, in the oil and gas business in Texas, there are guys that know this business upside and down, especially in the independent business. But you're not going to find a bank that'll do that right now.
I will say venture capital, the only area that's growing is basically energy venture capital, but it's primarily alternative energy.
It's clean energy stuff, yeah.
Couldn't he buy used
too,
equipment? Shouldn't he be looking for used equipment as opposed to buying new stuff?
If you had the money to buy equipment, that's what I would buy. And the equipment prices are falling, but my sense is Randy doesn't have the cash to attack that issue right now.
Marco, from Dallas and oil to food in Philly. Go ahead, Marco.
Sure. A suggestion I have for Randy is you know, we did mention some of the large banks, but don't forget about your small local community banks. And what I mean by that, when we started out, our bank was a local small bank, but they had really good knowledge of the retail and the food industry in Philadelphia. So don't forget about those local small banks that might have better knowledge of your local area and your industry, and perhaps more willing to lend than some of the big banks like Bank of America.
I just want to broadly say, though, this isn't business in general. If you've got a business that's not really, it's speculative, it is a growth business with no current revenues, it's really generally an equity type of investment. If you've got a business you're expanding that has revenue, then you can think about debt financing. I mean, again, I don't know Wildcat in Texas, but if you can't raise money, generally loan money to do a speculative no-revenue business.
We got to go. Marco Lentini, founder and president of Avanti Foods. Marco, thank you for being here. Another top chef coming up. Stay with us. One more hour to go. Get your... Hi, everybody. Welcome to Your Questions, Your Money. I'm Dagan McDowell along with Tracy Burns, and we want to hear from you. In this hour, we're talking about stimulating the economy ourselves by starting a business, growing one, building one, and getting fired up.
Yeah, so get motivated. Put down that cup of coffee, start thinking, focusing on your dreams. Call us, 877-249-9626. You can always email us at feedback@foxbusiness.com.
And we have to confess, we're having a little hard time focusing right now.
Way distracted right now.
Tracy and we all have this giant platter of cheese.
Beautiful.
Artisanal cheese.
Looking cheese.
Some yummy treats.
Some of it stinks.
Stinky cheese is good.
That's right.
That's right. And we want to welcome, on that note, who brought us this cheese. Terrence Britton did. The owner of Artisanal. It's a restaurant here in New York City. He's also the owner and chef of Picheline, if you've ever had the opportunity to eat there. But again, he also runs a direct-to-the-people cheese sales business that you do. It's wholesale and retail online, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's called artisanalcheese.com.
That is what I want you to tell us, because again, we look at high-end food business, Terrence.
Right.
You were made your name becoming a very famous chef, but it has to be one of the most difficult businesses to get into. And how have you managed to not only start it, build it, and grow it?
Well, we started 15 years ago, so and the cheese company about 5 years ago. So it started before this implosion, but it's very trying times, and the way I look at it is it's also it's a time to really fine-tune your business, to really look at it, to look under everything and bring more to the bottom line, and that's what we've been doing. And we've been becoming better business people. I'm becoming a better business person, because when everything's all good and everything's rolling in, it's just like, isn't this great? And I'm just creating and having fun with food. But now I gotta worry about every penny. As my first bookkeeper used to say, you watch the pennies and the dollars take care of themselves.
But you went a different route. I mean, many of the celebrity chefs like yourself just kept opening restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, and now they're feeling it.
Right.
They're getting into trouble. Gordon Ramsay has gotten into issues. They had to, anyway, we won't dig into that.
But you didn't. You went the wholesale.
Well, I waited till now, because I'm opening restaurants now.
Because you're getting cheap rent.
Right. So, yeah, I have with the cheese and then two restaurants, and now there is plenty of opportunity out there, and the rents are coming down, and developers are being very aggressive, and we're opening 2 restaurants in Seattle in a development project. So, I'm actually in growth mode.
How did you pick Seattle? Again,
it picked me, I think.
In what way?
Well, I was pursued by the developer for a good probably year and a half, and I really wasn't interested, and then he sweetened the pot, and then I took a flight out there, and the project is really a wonderful mixed-use project in Bellevue. So there's Microsoft is right there, and high-end shopping with Neiman Marcus anchoring it, and Gucci and all those kinds of stores. So it was at the time a year or so ago when we signed. It was a really interesting, great, and it still is. And we'll be back. It's coming back.
You've been doing some amazing things, though, and it seems to me that it's a sign of the times. I noticed that you had a comfort food Monday night specials, right? Yeah. Bringing the comfort food back. People can buy smaller meals at the bar. Is this all because of the economic times, giving people the
Yes.
opportunity to eat your fabulous food but not have to spend a load of money?
Yes, absolutely. During these times, we think about our customer a lot and what they need. You know, so we're more creative. We meet weekly on what else we can do, what else we could be doing. And it's working. I mean, we've had a great response to Comfort Food Mondays and Brew Tuesdays, and even at Picheline, we have a la carte now at the bar. We have small plates at the bar, and that's been very successful.
How are you marketing your online component, and what role is that playing in your business?
Big. Online is how we mostly market because, you know, the big glossy magazines aren't writing about fine dining. You know, they're just so that's really where we're doing. Our PR has kind of shifted to marketing, and we have 3 websites, and we do email blasts a lot, and we communicate via email and news blast on our websites big time.
I get the artisanal emails, actually.
Yes, and then what happens is then the bloggers pick it up. The bloggers are a big kind of factor in this PR push now, because you get Zagat.com, you get Feeder.com, and they pick that up, and then everyone kind of feeds off that, and then.
What are you doing in terms of service, though? Improving service, because you're in the service business and known for that include on top of the food. But what are you doing to improve it?
Well, we're focused more on service than ever because we look at every customer, you know, as a gift. I mean, we really they can go anywhere and any night now and pick any restaurant, including ours, and that's what we want them to do. So, you know, there's a lot of great restaurants with great food. I think the determining factor is the hospitality factor, and that is, we really focus on that. And we're even actually giving more to our customer than we did a few years ago.
Terrence Brennan is here. It's 6 minutes after the hour. Time to welcome our radio listeners on Sirius and XM. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with Tracy Burns. We've got, again, incredible people lined up to tell you how to grow your business.
Yeah, so we're going to reintroduce our panel to you. We have Dani Babb from the Babb Group, knows all things loans. John Rutledge with Rutledge Capital is going to tell you about the Blue Fire, I'm sure. Jonas Max Ferris, Fox contributor and co-founder of MaxFunds.com. And, of course, Terrence Brennan of Artisanal Restaurant is with us. And there's a platter of cheese in front of us that, I'm sorry, if you're listening, you can't see.
Terrence is not just known for artisanal. He was originally known for Picheline.
Yes.
Right.
Then artisanal. And now, in the website, is it just artisanal.com, Terrence?
Artisanalcheese.com.
Okay. We wanted to give that out. But
there's an important lesson there from Terrence. There's 2 things you said. One, Ross Perot told me once, the winner's the last man left standing at the end of the day.
Right.
So do what you need to survive,
Absolutely.
whatever you need to do it. We are becoming better business guys.
Yes.
But the second is, Terrence is using a branding strategy that most people won't understand. We think of brands as Coca-Cola or a car or something. Your reputation is your brand.
Absolutely.
I have a daughter, CIA-trained chef. She probably buys your cheese for her bed and breakfast.
Right.
She buys it because of the brand, which is you.
Right.
And leveraging that brand through non-overhead distribution like the internet or new lines is way, way better way of extending a brand today than trying to just buy another big product company and put it out there, because it has no overhead attached.
But what's so interesting is that, I mean, we could go out and have cheese and bread and a glass of wine, and you can call that dinner. And in an economic time where people are, you know, trying to pinch pennies, you're still capitalizing on all that.
Sure, and that's the beauty, so beautiful about it, you know, just referring to cheese, is that you can just do that, and it's very rewarding and very filling. A little bit goes a long way, so it's affordable luxury.
Well, I mean, some of these cheeses I'm looking at like $30 a pound, which is kind of the cheese boom of the last 10 to 15 years. I would say the average pound cost of cheese has gone up a lot. Has it slipped lately? Are people stepping down from these exotics to more ho-hum?
No, I mean, artisanal cheese, probably the average price is about $15 a pound. You do have, you know, a few rare cheeses that are $30 a pound, but the average price is $12 to $15, $18 a pound. No, because I look, cheese for me is the new wine. People are very interested in it. I mean, any restaurant worth their grain of salt serves a cheese course now. So, and now what's really popular are these, because of it's less capital intensive, and what I'm focusing on too, I have a new concept called the artisanal table, which is a pizzeria, tapas, and wine bar, and cheese is a big part of those wine bars. Cheese, charcuterie, small plates, and those are the places, if you go around the city, those are the ones that are still very busy.
But depending on the Coca-Cola analysis, when you distribute this, do you always keep the brand name on it? Would you ever go through like a supermarket chain or somebody and say, we're just going to wholesale it, you sell it as cheese?
We do sell it to supermarkets supermarkets and other stores, but they have our brand.
Yes, that's required, right?
Right.
So in some ways, that's like a Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola isn't just going to sell soda. It'd be like, you sell it as soda, we're going to sell it cheaper because they have a brand. They want to carry through, even at this high-end product. That becomes important to them.
Right.
I've bought it. I've bought that. I've bought the artisanal cheese through other retailers before.
Right.
We have an incredible number of phone calls lined up, and we want to start getting to those. Tim is on the horn from New York. Tim, go ahead. Ask away.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. My question is, I liquidated like a secondary SEP IRA to stop the bleeding, basically, because I didn't want it all to be gone. So my question is, I got a check, and have I made a mistake for one thing? But can I diversify into investments with that as a small, into a small business kind of thing with a self-directed IRA? And can I invest in real estate in the diversification, stocks or whatever I want to do? Say a small catering business kind of thing. And I just want you to know you guys are a breath of fresh air for America. I appreciate it.
I'd like to talk about that.
Wait, did you liquidated a SEP IRA?
Yes, I did.
And why? To pay your bills?
No, I didn't want to lose it all.
Let me address one quick issue because we've had a few calls like this before other shows, is you don't have to sell a 401k or a SEP to get out of losing money. Right. In fact, almost everyone I can think of, even your crummy 401k with the limited options, there's something in there that doesn't have direct stock market or even like high yield bond market exposure. You can keep an IRA in a money market account, in CDs in many cases at a bank. You don't have to cash it out and deal with the potential issues with the IRS just to stop from hemorrhaging money. So that's kind of the first main issue I want to address. Second, and someone else probably knows more about this than me, there's been a lot of issues with the IRS and trying to use your IRA for like real estate investments, and generally it's not allowed. You have to use like REITs through your IRA, but someone else might know if that law's changed.
No, you're right. Actually, and the law hasn't changed. They're cracking down on that, but you're going to have to pay. I mean, you could, if you just did this recently, consider putting the money back quickly. You have a 60-day window before they start charging taxes and penalties on withdrawing that money. And that's going to take away probably over 50% of the money you pulled out. And as Jonas said, you can throw it back in a money market, ride out this wave, invest it, and avoid all these extraneous costs. You guys want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I was going to make the 60-day point. If you want to invest in real estate, I wouldn't necessarily liquidate this particular IRA to do it. There are other methods of getting that capital and getting those resources to start a business without having to do that. And I would do it as Tracy recommends. And if you're still within that window, throw that money back in there.
Now you can use it as collateral in some ways to get loans to do other business ventures, because a bank would love to see you with $100,000 in a 401k, $100,000 in a SEP if you're going to get a loan, because in theory they could get at it. In theory, plus it shows responsibility, et cetera. But as far as using those vehicles to make business investments, that's not really allowed.
Terrence, did you have to dip into your own personal pocket to start your business?
No, I never like to do that.
Good for you.
I mean, I am feeling it personally, but just because.
But when you first started out,
how did you
yes,
fund the
absolutely. Yeah,
business
my
when you
very
started?
first. Yes, absolutely. I borrowed money from family and my personal savings to start Picheline in 1993.
Got a question?
I don't even know how I even did it. I mean,
What was the defining moment that said, I have to do something on my own?
Well, I always wanted to. I always wanted to, and then I kind of look back at what my my budget was, and what I know now and what I didn't know then. I would I just put my head down and my first quote on the whole paint job was my entire decorating budget. So but we went in there and we made it happen. And
So did you overspend, or did you?
No, I just didn't have enough to spend.
Were you into cheese first, and then you want to make a business out of it, or were you into business? You're like, I can make money with cheese.
Well, I'm a chef restaurateur first, and then I have a passion for cheese. Some people say obsession, but I have a passion for cheese. When I was working and living in France is where I developed that passion and appreciation for artisanal cheeses.
Thank you. Again, it's about harnessing your passion. We got it quick, John. We got about 30 seconds.
Terrence, when we come back, we have people call us all the time. How can I sell my little food product, branded product? We've got Mary, we got Zig, we've got Michael. I'd love to hear you tell them how to sell small amounts in a startup business of a branded food product.
That is after the break. We have almost a full hour, 45 minutes of your questions about running a business, starting one, coming up. Keep the calls and emails coming.
Do you believe we haven't dipped into the cheese yet?
Are we allowed to?
877, call us, 877-249-9626, or email us feedback@foxbusiness.com. Remember, this is the only business network where on Saturdays we're up with a beautiful platter of cheese, working for you. Give us a call. Hi, everyone. This is the Fox Business Network. I'm Tracy Burns along with Dagan McDowell. We are here to answer your questions about your money, but I think first, John and Danny want to shout out to...
We have 1,100 Marines. Captain Tim Weber emailed us this morning that have our back, and we have your back too, and we are very glad you're watching. Thanks for all that you do for us, and we are enjoying listening to all the businesses that you want to start, and we are in your corner.
And you're the future entrepreneurs now that you're home.
And we have Mark on the phone from New York with actually a question about the vets. Go ahead, Mark.
Hi, yes, I'm a disabled vet, and I've been planning on starting a business for some time. And now we've kind of walked into this bear trap financially in the economy. So the question is this a good time or just put it back on the shelf?
While everyone else is out there worried about how to keep their business, keep their employees, there are a lot of good, talented people leaving. It's time for you to snatch them up. I would take any business and hit that and go for it. Right now, as a veteran, you can get the Patriot loan, which is up to $500,000, a 7-year loan with a 36-hour turnaround time. This is for veterans, active duty, reserve, guard, and spouses. There are also tons of grants. Go to grants.gov for people in your situation. And this is the time to start anything while everyone else is worried about stuff happening. You can pounce on it and be ready for a rebounding economy.
Entrepreneur needs one special resources, which is courage. You've already got that. Second of all, we had a disabled vet call us up 3 weeks ago. Says, I want to work. What do you do? He was a bookkeeper. We had another caller call us the week later. Said, can you put me in contact with that fellow? His name was Terry, because I want to hire him. Terry's in business now. Moral of that story, Mark, is you are not disabled. You have an internet. You have a telephone. You have skills. You have energy. You can attack this market just as well as anybody else.
I will say, I've seen a lot of money destroyed in startups, and about half are going to fail. And that number goes up in recessions. It doesn't go down. So, but I will say there are higher quality workers available at lower prices. So that is your main advantage right now. The disadvantage is the failure rate's going to go up. So to be very careful about what kind of business you're starting. A lot of businesses that weren't that good can make it in boom times. They cannot in times like this.
And half of marriages fail too, but people still get married. So go for it.
And Terrence, I know.
And there's vet money.
I read a quote from you, actually.
Uh-oh, what did I say?
No, it was about, you were talking about hiring.
Yes.
And you said you were dismayed a year ago by the quality of cooks applying for junior positions, but now you were overwhelmed by the availability
and managers, more so with managers, too, as well. Management was very, very hard to find a year, 2 years, 3 years ago. And now you place an ad, and there's high-quality people out there.
See, I did my homework. Yeah. But speaking of John Rutledge, there's an email here for you, John. David in Delaware writes, my name is David, and I am a disabled vet. I live in Delaware. A couple of weeks ago, Mr. Rutledge talked about a website for vets to meet other vets about starting businesses. I missed the address. I have some money that I've been thinking about putting in the market or starting a business. I just don't know what I should do. I'm just trying to find out what my options are. Can you help point me in the right direction?
God bless you. Well, first of all, David, I don't ever remember any facts. I always ask Dani for the facts. She's going to give us the website. But you're here, and that's great.
The website was actually a communication, a forum that we all have going for people who are watching the show that want to help each other. And it's on my website. It's thebabbgroup.com. There's actually a forum in there for people watching this show.
Say that again slowly.
It's thebabbgroup.com.
No, you get fired up. I just wanted to make sure people...
2 B's. B-A-B-B. 2 B's.
Right, 2 B's.
All right, as we go to commercial, we want to give a shout-out to our radio listeners on Sirius Channel 145 and XM 168. Thank you for listening.
We still have time for a lot more questions. Our special guest is Terrence Brennan of Artisanal in Peachaline. Email address is feedback@foxbusiness.com, and that phone number, 877-249-9626. This is the Fox Business Network. We're here for you. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Right to your calls. On the phone is May in Mississippi. May, go ahead, ask your question.
We're wanting to start apartments here in Mississippi, and we want to know what money is available for us to start our business. We want to know grants versus loans, and what are the terms if we get a grant.
May, you have to tell us again what kind of business you're going to start. I'm translating for the non-Southerners here, so they can.
That's not Jersey talk.
Apartments.
So you want to buy and rent out apartments?
We want to build and rent out apartments.
Okay, May.
Okay, well, so you have a couple things going on here. First of all, lot loans are almost non-existent. So you're going to have to get the construction loan all at the same time in one package. Wells Fargo used to do those. They don't do them anymore. For grants, I would check out womensbusinessgrants.com if the business is going to be owned by you. They do have some grants out there for starting residential property. But here's what I would do. I would check out, Small Business Administration is not really going to touch residential real estate, even if it's more than 4 units. So you're going to have to go through traditional funding. You can still get that loan, but you are going to need 40% down. So that extra income may have to come from somewhere. It may be in the form of investors coming in. I would check out virginmoney.com if you need the other 40%. And also, there's, of course, I'm not a fan of it, but other people talk about friends and family using their capital. You are going to need some significant down payment to start that, but it is doable.
John, isn't this a tough time to build apartments?
Well, it's a very tough time if you're going to start from the ground up and get it financed and build the apartment. And it's even tougher in Mississippi than some other places. But there are existing apartments, I'm sure, within a rock's throw of you, May, that are, some of them are abandoned, some of them have troubled owners, some of them are owned by banks that are wanting to deal. So rather than build one at this point, I'd be looking for whether I can buy something at 10 cents on the dollar. And if you can't get that done and you just want to buy time, there are places out there that are not being properly maintained where the owners and the bank's value is dissipating. You can get those contracts to maintain those until you can actually get a hold of a building.
Terrence, I mean, along the same lines as a restaurant, someone wants to open a restaurant, but the initial reaction could be, there's thousands of restaurants, so should I go about doing that? What do you need to do to differentiate, kind of like building apartments when there's loads of apartments? What do you need to do to make your restaurant stand out and go out there and open another one?
Well, it starts first with it has to be something that's, like, for example, right, I would not do a fine dining restaurant right now. That's why I'm doing their Cheese on Tables pizzeria. So it has to be well thought out. Well financed is extremely important because you need at least 6 months, if not, maybe in these times, maybe 8 to 10 months of operating capital in the bank. And that's why the success rates of restaurants are so high, is because they're undercapitalized. That's reason number one. And so even when I opened my restaurant, I was undercapitalized. I don't do that anymore. I make sure there's plenty of capital when we open up so we don't have to really squeeze and cut corners and stress out to try to survive. But a lot of, right now the banks are not going to give any money for a restaurant, especially if you don't have a reputation, a name. It's easier for me. Right now, I have private people that are investors, so it's easier because I have successful restaurants and I have a brand and a name, and so people will only get behind that. And people who have cash, they look at the business plan. It's a good place to park it.
People that back businesses like success, I mean, the restaurant business has got a failure rate like 90%. Compared to operating rental properties, it's way riskier. It's amazing that you even can succeed in that environment. To this point, the whole definition of a down
90%. Where'd you get that from?
I think it can be as high in down markets. It's like it's the worst business to go into other than nightclubs and lounges.
Don't say that.
A lot. Well, some businesses have high success rates. Operating rental property has a high success rate relative to the restaurant.
Well, again, the spotlight on Terrence just got brighter.
It's very hard to succeed. The man's a restaurant genius, I say. What I want to say is the whole idea of a down real estate market is you can buy real estate, to your point, lower than the cost of building it. You shouldn't be trying to build real estate. Right. The second thing is to get financing, to Terrence's point also, you want to show success. He's had a lot of success in restaurants, so for him to get financing to launch a restaurant somewhere else is easier than some new guy if I wanted to go into a restaurant business. So go to this business low and show that you can do it, because you probably haven't done it yet. Buy really low-end properties, 3 house trailers, and show that you can make money at this, and then you'll get financing for a larger scale venture because you have a pattern of success, and that's what investors like.
We want to quickly get to another call because Kathy is on the phone. Kathy, you're calling from Tennessee, and you have a question about getting into the food business. Go ahead.
What my question is my mom was always good at making pies, and I'm wanting to do that and maybe make it into a small business. And so, but I want to start from my home, and I don't want to have a lot of overhead. My question is, what are the benefits of starting a business out of the home, or maybe the downside, and also nutritional facts? I don't want to get sued in the process of maybe selling pies. And then the other thing is, it's very expensive to make really a good product. It's just a basic homemade pie, but you can't get that anymore. Everything's real fancy, and we just want something basic. Anytime I take a pie to anybody, they're like, we can't get this anymore. So I'm just wanting to make that available, make a pie like my mama did, and then I don't know about markup. It's just that sort of thing. Oh, and one more question. If you have an idea for a product related to something that you do, like a kitchen product, what would be the best way to get that made? Something like that.
Terrence, you take that.
Well, I think, Dell started out in a garage. So there are plenty. I even think Bill Gates even started. Yeah. So I think it's something of that product. It's especially now. It's a good way to start out. There's a couple of things that are important. One is that if the reaction should be, is it like the best apple pie? When do people go goo goo gaga over the apple pie? I mean, everybody. Number two is a couple of the buzzwords now in the gourmet market is, you're probably not going to do organic because that'll be cost prohibitive, but all natural, things of this nature that, homemade, and a story behind it is always good. Like the story of your grandmother, great-grandmother, and this recipe was passed down from generation and generation, and have a little storyboard on the back of your sticker to have some emotional attachment to customers that will buy this.
How does she sell to a restaurant like yourself?
She goes to the back, knocks on the back door, and tells her story, and says, "You got to taste this." And
this is a technical question, but as a chef, she's going to cook these in her home. What kind of equipment does she need? What does she need to think about in terms of the health regulations too?
Well, she's going to have to. I assume she has a regular oven, and she doesn't have a double deck. So she's, her volume is going to be limited. So she should test that out and see the response. If she gets a couple local gourmet stores that take her pies, and then when she can't, she's really doing 2-3 shifts and her ovens aren't keeping up, then it's time to say, hey, I got a business here.
Terrence is exactly right. Don't wait until you've got all the things together to sell your first pie. Get out there. But we need to have Kathy tell whoever's in the control room her phone number or her email. Last week we had Mary on, 70 years old from Arkansas, with a dipping sauce. 3 people emailed me and want to buy her dipping sauce. We're going to get orders for you.
And Overstock, we had the CEO of Overstock here who says that their company will sell this sort of stuff. So check into bigger distribution
channels. And there's a website called Foodsy.com that's micro brands. You can build micro brands with the internet, lowering the overhead today, and you can sell them everywhere, as long as you can drop ship.
Keep those calls coming and emails, everybody. This is the Fox Business Network. We're going to be right back.
All right, let's get right to your calls. We got Bob from Missouri on the phone. Hi, Bob.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you? What's your question?
I'm fine. My question is, we started a business about 15 years ago, and we built this business of pallet recycling, repairing, and rebuilding of pallets used mainly for the shipping of food products. We mainly concentrate on the food market, and we built the company on quality, service, marketing, and, we save companies loads of money from sending their pallets to disposal or landfills. And, we've been competing with like 3 other companies here in this little town in Missouri that we live in. But we pretty well have taken market share here. And we've been doing really well. About 4 years ago, I had an accident with my neck, and it kind of put me back for 3 or 4 years. And now I'm getting ready to go back to work finally. And what I'm wondering is, are there any grants out there or reasonable loans that a business can get to that's not costing you 7, 8, 9%? You know, everybody wants a grant, and I'd be glad to get one of those for this recycling business. But the thing is we need to expand here, and we're going to have to take another loan out. And again, you know, we've been in business for 15 years. We did about 1.2 million, I don't know, about 5 years ago. It's trailed off from there because, you know, I haven't been able to work because of that injury, but now I'm getting ready to go back to work, and we're looking for that money to expand.
Right.
And what I'm wondering is should I use my IRA as collateral for that loan?
I hate to hear that. I hate to hear that. Go ahead.
Well, some of the banks may require that you just be willing to put it at risk, so that's different than actually taking it out. But here's what I would check out: clubefactory.com. There's a list of grants for people doing what you do. Also, there are 130 grants, brand new grants, started January 1st. For recycling businesses and so on. So you can access those at business.gov/finance. And then the last thing I would look at is what's called the 7A loan, which has just been given additional capital to expand businesses like yours or help keep them going.
Yeah, Bob, there's no law against dressing up a pig and putting new lipstick on it if you want to sell it. So you can be an environmental business if you want. You can be a clean energy business if it'll fit inside the parameters of the loans. Get the money. Second of all, God bless you for getting back up and going back at it again. You know, your business has been completely changed in that 15 years. Maybe you're the guy who did it. But the pallet business has gone from being really a trash business to one where you can recycle and use over and over again at quality. And the problem you're running into at the moment is the less than truckload business has really been nailed by the drop-off in the consumer durables in the last 12 months. It won't be like that forever. But that would make me want to go directly to the guys like Arkansas Best, the LTL guys, and just go in through the back door of the place and see if you can do something where they will finance you, because they're going to be the buyers that need the pallets in volume that you're going to be producing.
Let's get another call. Bill from Texas is on the line. Bill, ask away.
Hey, Dagan. Hey, crowd. You guys are spectacular. Blue ribbon panel. Especially Dr. John. He's the financial medicine man. I'm convinced of that. Tracy, you are spectacular, too. All of you do a good job. Here's the deal. We're talking about the elephant in the room, and everybody has avoided talking about this. To the small business person who's really hurting right now, one way you can increase your income is to cheat on your taxes. Panel, what do y'all think? Now, I mean,
I'm glad you used your name, Bill.
Let me just... room, and you know, if you're riding tough times, what do you think?
Thank you, Bill.
No.
Well, the real question is, do you want to go to jail
when you have a
and
name,
be a bad man's girlfriend?
You want to be Treasury Secretary?
No, Bill, obviously, everybody's dipping into every pocket they can right now. All I know is that when you get your own personal IRS agent and you start getting involved in the criminal actions with them, that is the worst day in your life, and they never go away. So that is not where I want to go. These guys are dead serious, and the problem is the courts are not available to you to fight them. They have their own courts, and they collect that money at the point of the gun.
I mean, I, as a person who did tax returns for 5 years, what you need... It was painful, but I did them. What you need to know,
I know it. He can get aggressive.
What you need to know is
legally
that
aggressive. That's a good.
People think that you're not going to get caught, and odds are good you probably won't. But on the rare occasion that you do, as John said, they will make your life miserable. You will be charged back fees, penalties, interest. They'll wipe you out, and they're not going to quit till they get all their money. It is absolutely not worth it. And you know what? There's enough deductions and options these days for small businesses. Take advantage of every single one of them before you consider cheating.
That's really the key, is that you have to use and find and get a good CPA if you need to. Every single possible that's legal, and be aggressive. Exactly. You know, like my accountant says, there's tons of stuff out there you may not even know about. There are forums and websites helping entrepreneurs find these particular things.
Right. But let's give some play to the crooked IRS. I mean, I wouldn't say it's IRS, of course. Realistically, First of all, like AIG just recently applied for tax credits from years ago that they supposedly overpaid on taxes. So there are things where you actually could get money, not an account, but from past tax returns you paid. Second of all, if your small business is so hard up, are there taxes that you're paying? So how much cheating can you do anyway if you're not paying taxes? If you're really hard up, you wouldn't be paying taxes. Third, you in theory could underpay on your taxes as a form of very expensive loaning from the IRS because you are going to have to pay it back later. You're not going to go to jail for that, but you're going to pay penalties and interest, and it's expensive. But in an emergency, it's
something we want people to be doing.
Right. I'm just telling you realistically what people are doing. I'm not saying I'm recommending it, but that's what people do.
Terrence, you operate in Tax Central,
Yes.
New York City.
Yep, absolutely.
Is that the one thing about being a business owner you hate?
No, that's one thing. No, I don't hate it. I mean, it's just the cost of doing business. But that's one thing struggling restaurants tend to do. When I bought a restaurant, I got caught up in this, is that they'll put off those taxes, and that's a sure sign of a restaurant's really going to go under. But now the new laws in New York, they make you pay the taxes every month. Where it's automated. It's automated now, so you can't hold back too much anymore.
Has anybody noticed that out of all these guys calling us that have the guts to start a new business, they almost all located in states with 0 state income tax? We have Texas, we have Tennessee, we've got Nevada, we've got Washington.
Missouri.
Folks, there's a moral out there. You know, when you charge people taxes, they run away.
Terrence,
Did one of these people move to one of these states because of the low taxes? I don't think that's really why they're there, though. In fact, the most successful businesses in America, the startups, are in California, the highest tax states in the country. So
and if you want to rent a U-Haul trailer, you won't find one in California. You have to pay to bring them back because those companies are leaving California.
I would guess that the folks calling from these low or no tax states are originally from there or nearby, just based on their accent.
I would too.
A lot of Southerners on this call.
Yeah.
They call for Dagan. All right. If you have to run out, please keep listening to us on the radio. Sirius Channel 145 and XM 168.
Right back with more of your questions and answers to them. Stay with us. We are the Fox Business Network, and we are taking your questions about getting into business, running one, growing one, being a superstar. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with superstar Tracy Burns.
And we got lots of superstars here with us. Let's go right to your questions. Paul from New York. Hello, local guy.
Yes, good afternoon. I want to first of all say thank you so much for this show. We're electrical contractors here in New York, and we're a minority-based firm. We had a line of credit with one of the local banks, and we were trying to extend our line of credit, grow our business, and the bank turned us down. So I was calling to find out if there's any other ways of getting funding, whether it's SBA or any other programs like that, to help grow our business.
Danny, there's got to be.
And check out efactorynetwork.com. There are. You might have to go to a bank that doesn't have an existing line already out there because they may be a little nervous about extending it or giving you more money. So I would check out another bank. I would check out several banks. I mean, I've got 10 loans going right now at the same time, just to give you an example. And whoever comes to the table first with the cheapest money is the one that's going to get the business. So go out there, hunt them down. Try not to take no for an answer. I know it can be depressing, particularly with somebody you're already doing business with. There's lots of other money out there.
There's going to be lenders today allergic to the word contractor also, like construction. So if you can go, like Jonas was saying earlier, if you can go and find somebody in the business you can do maintenance work for, if you can get a contract for that, that contract carried to the bank will give them enough collateral on the cash flow that it may advance you a little bit of money.
Did you say minority?
Yes.
The whole SBA has a whole lending division. I think it's like 8 or 4. I forgot what the section is. It's just for, are you in an economically depressed area, broadly speaking, as well?
He's in New York.
He's in America.
Well.
It's mdba.gov. That's where the minority.
Say that
Where's
again.
the location?
mdba.gov. It's for minority business owners.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of redlining. Like SBA loans are actually pretty easy to get if you're in an economically hardship area and if you're a minority business owner. It doesn't take away things like you're still going to be personally liable for the loans, et cetera, but the loans are actually a little easier to get. They have a whole division for that.
In terms of funding, because, Terrence, you're expanding your business, but you have private investors who've put money into the business. But what are the headaches involved in dealing with investors versus a bank?
Well,
You're getting ready to be very diplomatic, I can tell.
I've been fortunate enough to have, very passive happy investors. So I haven't had a bad experience yet. But the difference is, I mean, that note payment is every month from the bank. If you have private equity, you pay it back at it. If you structure it like I do, is you pay it back at it when there's profit. If there's no profit, you don't have to pay it back that month. So that takes a lot of pressure off if you have private equity and it's structured where there's not a minimum payment on the note or investment.
Private equity, unfortunately, is my day job. And this, out of every 10 years, there are 2 years in private equity where you make all the money for the 10 years. These are the 2 years.
Right.
And you make that by going into a business that cannot get a credit line, but has quality everything else, right. And you help them.
Right.
And you end up owning a lot of what they do. This is a huge time, so it's a tough time for the taker of private equity because of that.
Right.
Did they seek you, or did you seek them?
Oh, a little of both. A little of both. But another way of getting the bank to loan you money, if you have your inventory, they calorize it through inventory. So the Cheese Center, if they have a couple $100,000 in inventory, they'll take 60–70% of that, and they'll give you a loan on that.
How much in cheese inventory do you have right now?
Probably about $500,000 to $600,000.
If they fail,
and this man right here could eat every morsel of it.
I know, I'll let you money with cheese as a collateral of like no interest. That's all.
Yeah.
Did you have to give up equity in your business along all these rounds of financing that you've done with the years? Have you maintained ownership of the actual business?
No, I've been fortunate because I've never had to go to a second or third round to raise money. So I've been in a fortunate situation where I hadn't had to dilute.
So it was all debt financing,
yes.
Essentially. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know we want to move on to the next question, but quickly, cheese prices have gone up. I mean,
yes.
Dramatically in 2008.
Right.
How does that affect you, or does it not?
Well,
because you're gourmet.
Well, no, I mean, everything's affected. Retail, everything's affected. So yes, I mean, we're affected like everybody else, but. Again, it's an affordable luxury. You go in and you buy a pound of cheese. You don't, it's $25.
So you've been able to pass the prices on to consumers,
yes.
pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
You eat a little cheese and a lot lot
Plus
and wine.
And wine. And there's dinner.
And then you fall asleep and you don't have to worry. No, I'm just kidding. We've got a lot more questions coming up. Keep them coming.
You're
a lot
watching
more answers.
Fox Business. Stay with us. The only network live on Business Network, live on Saturday in True HD. And welcome back. Let's get right to your calls. We have Jolene from Florida on the phone. Hey, Jolene, what's your question?
Hi, I love the show, and I just want to tell you thanks so much. Each week I watch, I feel a little bit more empowered to opening the business that I've always wanted to watch, or always wanted to open. And my question is, I'm looking to open a bakery coffee shop in a resort town that I live in, and I just don't know how you go about finding the location. I've looked at different locations, and it seems like the larger, the more visible the location, obviously, the higher the rent. So how do you go about, what factors do I use in trying to determine what location to use to open a business?
Terrence?
Yeah, well, I think location in your respect, because you need foot traffic. You're not like my restaurant. I can be on a side street because we're well known. We get press and people come out and find us. But
well, tell her
for
that
a bakery,
because Pichelene is
right.
tucked away.
Right, you don't even know it's there.
Nook, and
right.
you don't even know
right.
it's there.
Now the benefit of that is you get a lesser rent. But if I was doing a bakery, you want high density, high traffic. And if you're getting the volume and the dollars, the rent, it doesn't matter. It does matter what the rent is, but if the number, you need that volume, and if the rent factor works with the volume, and don't worry about if it's 10,000 or 2,000 more than a side street, as long as you're able to keep that rent factor in a bakery. Restaurant we shoot for 4 or 5%, 6% rent factor, but in a bakery maybe it's a little higher.
What are some pitfalls though to watch out for when you're looking? Are there any warning signs when you're looking at a possible location? Anything you tell her about?
Well, it's especially in New York, the landlords are like Man, I got to tell you, because in Seattle, I like the landlord. In Chicago, they're nice people. In New York, they're like, and I love New Yorkers, but they like this. You got to really read that lease. I mean, I read every lease as well as my lawyers, and I catch a couple things the lawyers don't catch. So there's some things in there, like they can sell the building for us. I just had a friend who had a restaurant for 3 years, and they sold the building, is done. And I was looking at a space too that had that clause in there for after 5 years. Now I don't think I have to worry about selling a building right now, but. But you got to make sure the increases are, they're in check and they're normal. Right now, you should be able to negotiate. See the history of what the rents were, and you should be able to get 20, 30% off that rent. Make sure that you could be aggressive on your increases. You can also play with, for the first 5 years, there's no increases, and then you have like a balloon increase. So, the first 3 years of a business is very, very important. So even you can be creative with the rent as well. Sometimes if I look in a situation, I say, well, listen, give me, like I did at Artisanal. The first 5 years, I had a flat rent, and then after that, I didn't really care because I'd have 7 more businesses, and it went up to the normal, 6%. Gross, and it doesn't have to be black and white when you do a lease.
John, that's a great point, or Danny, you could really negotiate in this environment.
You can negotiate, but here's something also to consider, and that is look at what the complementary good is. I'll give you an example. I'm opening a whole slew of tanning salons in California. The complementary good are people who go to the gym, so I'm opening up next to gyms. So figure out who the people are that are already going somewhere, that their next logical conclusion
yeah, my initial reaction was do it by a train station.
Right next to Jenny Craig. Put the bakery. That's where you go.
Oh, it's a low fat.
Excellent.
One cheapskate way of doing this in practical terms. People from business school that I went to actually became site selectors for businesses, which shows you how competitive that is. And other industries spend a lot of money doing this, but you can't do that. You can't hire an MBA site selector just to find where to put your one little muffin store. What you can do is copycat what other chains who have site selectors do. And this sounds dumb because you wouldn't think you'd want to be near a Starbucks, but you actually could because they figured out that's a good location. And their muffins stink, frankly, and the coffee's not so great either. So if you have a slightly better product, there's going to be all these people that are there but don't want to wait in their line or have their prices and/or quality.
They've also
and
lost their edge.
And you can rip it off. And another thing is, we made an investor out of our landlord, so we didn't have to pay so much rent, and it didn't work out for him. But the bottom line is we saved on rent, and you can consider that with some cases if you can bring in a landlord who's having trouble renting a place at a full rent.
Quickly, an email. Ralph writes, I'm looking to expand my winery business, and I'm torn between building a new facility or purchasing another winery with existing sales. Either option would cost the same, but are there financing advantages to one or the other? Danny, do you want to get into this? Or John, this is a toss-up because I want to give Terrence the last word on this.
CDC 504 will help you with brick and mortar. It doesn't matter if you buy it or if you build it.
Buy or build, Terrence? What do you think? Because this is...
Well, and he said that the numbers are the same, whether he buys it. Well, then the depreciation of the newer building would help you in taxes. So I find it hard to believe that the numbers would be the same of building something from scratch and taking over something unless the purchase price is too much. So he needs to get the purchase price. He's paying too much for it.
when you buy.
Yeah, he's paying too much for
When you go to look for a new restaurant, though, do you look at a space that's an already existing restaurant, or do you just not care, you just go find a nice space?
Well, it depends. What I'm finding now in these times, unfortunately, there's a lot of restaurants that are going under. So, and this particular new concept, the artisanal table, I have a pro forma I want to keep the capital at $1 million, right around $1 million. So an artisanal takes $5 or $6 million, and that's another beast. So, so I'm looking at restaurants now that have recently gone under that fit the footprint and that do not need a lot of capital to turn it over. But there's also raw space where landlords are being aggressive with TI, tenant allowance, and improvements, and that's working well right now because they do not want an empty storefront. You can also, getting back to, if something's empty, you can make a deal with the landlord, pay, the first 5 years, 3 years, and do a graduated scale and negotiate something just to get in there. And then, there's all kinds of things you can negotiate now.
What about the winery business, given the economic climate and environment and kind of high-end dining, high-end... We don't know how much this wine costs, but to expand in this environment?
Well, high-end, I'm a little, a little wary of high-end. I mean, but certainly if it's a mid-range wine or a lower-end wine, that works because people are, they're drinking, they go into bars more, they're drinking more. I mean, beer sales are going up more so than wine, but and alcohol sales. But I just look you know, being an entrepreneur, right? I mean, 70%, Obama said this the other day, that, you know, in the last 10 years, we created, you know, 70% net jobs. So, and being an entrepreneur, there's opportunity, and you know, in any environment. And I'm very excited about the future and what our company is going to do and grow. And so I mean, it's the good times and bad times, but you always got to wake up and say, hey, man, you know, this is for this concept. I had it for 2 years, and now it's the perfect time to roll it out.
And you were the perfect guest to be here.
You were.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful.
You were the perfect guest to be here, and not just because you brought cheese.
As I brought the cheese, that's why.
That is not why.
That is a factor.
That is not why. But
that's why Jonas came.
Everybody, we want to thank Dani Babb, John Rutledge, Jonas Max Ferris, and Terrence Brennan. And thanks to all of you for sending in your questions and calling in. That's all the time that we have for this Saturday. But again, we just want to, and before we get on to business on Tuesday, I want to just tell you, this is about you, and this is about empowerment. So you keep the spirit alive, stay on fire, everybody. And then on to those guys Tuesday. Federal Reserve Chief Ben Bernanke and Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner will testify before the House Financial Services Committee. You can watch it live here on Fox Business. And then Tuesday night, that press conference. That's all we have.